Good evening. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Kettering City Council. Today's date is February 14th, 2023. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Join us for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, thank you for all who serve the Kettering community. Give us enthusiasm for our work and wisdom to make the right decisions. May we remain humble and grateful for the opportunity to lead. Guide this council so that we may continue to serve our citizens with integrity and purpose, always remembering to be worthy of the responsibilities entrusted in us by our residents. I would like to recognize our Miami Valley Communications Council TV operator, Mike Saproni. Mike, thank you for your assistance. Mr. Duke has an excused absence this evening. I'd like to call on Mrs. Fisher right now for a motion to approve the minutes.
Your Honor, I have read both the council meeting minutes and the worship minutes from January 24th. I do find them order, and I move for approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Call the roll.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall? Yes. Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mayor Lehner?
Yes. Okay. We now have proclamations and special presentations. I would like to invite a appointment for the Partners for Healthy Youth in Carrie Hennessy. I'm sorry, that will be Carrie Hennessy. Carrie Hennessy and Dan Van Handorf, both for terms ending 12/31/25. Make a motion for approval.
Motion for approval?
I'll second that.
Okay. We don't need to call the roll on that. Signify by saying aye. Call the roll. Yeah. Pardon? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Anyone opposed? Okay. No one's opposed? Welcome back to your next term on the Partners for Healthy Youth. We will now appoint a number of people to the Sustainability Committee. This is a new committee that's being stood up for the first time. We do have a full slate of folks who have agreed to serve on this committee. They will have staggered terms, so we will be appointing them tonight to a variety of different terms. I will read their names and the terms that they are being elected for, and that include Derek Boss, Mark Bertolo, Leah Capperly, Lee Isom. Those four for terms ending 12/31/23. Then we have Patrice Judge, Ron Clank, Ellie McCall, Gwen Owen for terms ending 12/31/24. Finally, we have Buzz Portune, Arthur Santoriani, Sean Sipple, Mike Zywin, terms ending 12/31/25. And I apologize if I butchered anyone's name. And I'd like a motion to approve the appointments as read.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, seeing none. Those following people will join that committee, and like I said, it's a new committee. It's going to be an important committee in the years ahead, and I want to thank everyone for being so willing to serve. The next item on our agenda is the police promotion ceremony, and I'm going to ask Chief Protzman to make the presentation this evening. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, I told you a couple months ago I'd be back.
Yep.
And as you know from the proclamation that you gave to Captain Dan Gangwer last week, for his retirement, that we now have 3 promotions that we want to make because of that retirement.
1 retires and 3 get promoted.
It's not a bad deal for us.
Very good.
So there'll be a captain, a lieutenant, and a sergeant that we are promoting this evening. So as I call your name, I'll ask for you to step up, please. Adam Savino. Adam is being promoted to captain. Adam is here tonight with his wife, Libby, his son, Jack, his daughter, Evelyn, and his daughter, Abigail. Who said they wanted to talk? Still do. All right. He's also here with his father, Tony, and his mother, Barb. His brothers, Mike and Aaron, are here, and his father-in-law, Don, as well. Adam began his career in law enforcement with the Cincinnati Police Department in 2006. We had the honor of hiring Adam in 2008. During his tenure with the Kettering Police Department, he has held many positions. He has served as a handgun instructor, a rifle instructor, a rifle armorer, a SORAT instructor, a simulations instructor. He was on the Ohio Organized Crime Task Force, and he was also a TCSU detective. He's been a patrol sergeant, a vice sergeant, a patrol lieutenant, and a support services lieutenant. Adam was promoted to sergeant in 2017 and then lieutenant in 2020. And he holds a Juris Doctorate degree in law from the University of Dayton.
All right. Well,
Next, being promoted to lieutenant is Doug Gaudette. Doug is here tonight with his sons Ethan, Evan, and Eli. His mother, Julianne, and his stepfather, David, as well. And his girlfriend, Sandy, is here also. Doug began his career in law enforcement with the Centerville PD in 1997. We had the honor of hiring Doug in 2004. During his tenure with KPD, he has held many positions. He has served as an evidence technician, a handgun instructor, a rifle instructor, a rifle armorer, an emergency vehicle operations instructor, an accident reconstructionist, a hostage negotiator, and personnel and training officer. Doug was promoted to sergeant in 2015. Doug graduated from the Supervisor Training and Education Program in 2015, and he holds a bachelor's degree of arts in psychology and a Master of Science degree in mental health counseling. Doug, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And being promoted to sergeant is Vince Mason. Vince? Vince is here tonight with his wife, Tamara, his son, Ryan, who is also a police officer with the Kettering Police Department, and his daughter, Brittany. Vince began his law enforcement career with the City of Cleveland. After serving with the City of Cleveland for 6 years, he came here and was hired by KPD in 2002. Vince had been an evidence crew and a detective for well over 10 years for us. And quite honestly, some would say the best detective the Kettering Police Department has ever had. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in criminal justice from the University of Dayton. Gentlemen, thank you. At this time, Your Honor, I would like for the individuals in the audience to step forward who are going to pin on the badges, please.
awesome.
Now, we always play the game who sticks who first, so please. They will step up and they will have their badges open for you and then just pin them.
One down.
This is the part they all enjoy. So I'm going to ask each of them to come up and say a few words. So we'll start with Sergeant Vince Mason, please.
Whoops. My,
A lot of people are
As far as
wondering
I
what you're
know,
gonna
every
say.
no sergeant before me has ever had to give a speech. I want to thank my wife. She's the reason I'm here. Always supported me, so I honestly wouldn't be here without her. I want to thank my wife.
can you step around to get the mic there? We'll pick you up.
So
Thank you.
any good real estate agent would tell you, people new to a community value two things in a new city that they're unfamiliar with. They care about crime and they care about schools, generally speaking. I'm glad to be part of that. I really am, and I'm glad to have done that for a long time now. More importantly, I'm glad to serve with the people off camera in the uniforms, and I'm proud to be part of this team. I'm grateful for my sons being here, my mom, Sandy, my extended friends and family. I'm very grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
The captain was told he has to give the longest speech, Your Honor.
Chief, thank you for this opportunity. Your Honor, City Council, City Manager, I do believe that this organization is truly Ohio's finest. I thank you for this opportunity, and I am extremely humbled and honored to begin my new position and to be able to work for an outstanding agency. I also thank you for your continued support of the police department. We are very lucky to maintain an excellent relationship with you and the community. May I address the gallery?
You may.
I wasn't nervous until I saw my two brothers show up. No air horn. I would like to just take a few minutes to thank my family. I want to thank my wife first, Libby. She's beautiful and supportive, and she's been with me for 18 years in this crazy career, and she is always right. Hey, I asked you to just review this, not to write anything. This career has kept me away many nights and weekends and holidays, and there were some sporting events that I missed due to call-outs, and she has bared that, and I could not have done this job that I love so much without her support, and for that, I thank you. I would also like to thank my kids, Evelyn, Jack, and Abigail. They always lift my spirits, and they keep me grounded. I'd like to thank my parents, Barb and Tony. They've made me who I am today. They taught me values and a work ethic. That's extremely important and is missing in a lot of society today. Thank you. I also like to thank my father-in-law, Don. A lot of the events I miss, and there's one of my wife and 3 children, and he does a lot to get kids around to places because we just can't do it when I get locked into something here at work. Thank you for doing that, Don. I really appreciate it. I'm incredibly honored to be here today, especially because of the men and women that I work with. It is a very special group of people. They stand ready at all times and under any conditions to answer the call, many times at great jeopardy to themselves. If you call, they will always answer. I have witnessed the following things from our officers. An officer was dispatched to a suspicious person call in the parking lot of a grocery store. The officer ended up buying groceries for a family with his own money that day. An officer was dispatched to another suspicious person call, and finding the subject homeless, he bought him shoes. Officers were dispatched to a burglary on Christmas Eve. it was discovered that all of the Christmas presents were stolen. The midnight watch that night rounded up cash, went to Meyer, wrapped gifts, and presented them to the family on Christmas Eve night. I have seen on numerous occasions officers race into burning homes and apartments to make sure that no one was inside, even though the fire department really does not like us to do that. On one occasion, a child called for help regarding his father, who was intoxicated and highly agitated. When the officer arrived, he was confronted by a suspect wielding 2 knives. The officer was able to talk the suspect down and take him into custody without using any force at all. I also witnessed our officers holding a protest line. They were steadfast while they were insulted and items were thrown at them. They remained calm and professional, and their only job at the time was to protect the very people who were affronting them. This takes a very special kind of person, a true guardian, a guardian of the system and of the people. These are just a few examples of what makes this police department Ohio's finest. I am proud and honored to be considered one of them. When I first considered this position, I began to look for some guidance or advice in what I was supposed to be doing. I came across a story which struck me as very appropriate. The story is from an old Cherokee legend and is as follows. One evening, an elderly Cherokee warrior told his grandson about a battle that goes inside every person. He said, "My son, the battle is between 2 wolves inside us all. One is evil. It is anger, envy, jealousy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. The other is good. It is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith." The grandson thought about this for a minute and asked, "Which one wins?" The grandfather smiled and simply replied, "The one that you feed." I cannot promise that I will be perfect. I know that I won't be. I can't promise that all decisions I make will have the intended consequences. But I do commit to furthering and promoting the ideals that make this police department outstanding. Thank you.
Your Honor, I'm very proud of the men and women of this police department, as I think you all know and I talk about all the time. And these are 3 examples of why. I told you we're getting younger, and that is true. A lot of great work done by supervisors that came before these gentlemen, but the future looks pretty bright for the Kettering Police Department. I'm very anxious to see what happens. So thank you for having us tonight.
I would just like to add, I don't think I have ever been at a promotion where people were as highly qualified as the 3 of you. We are very, very proud of our police department. When we talk about it all the time, I think it's one of the best qualities of this city. And thank you very much. Adam, I think you left one thing out. Wasn't my husband your track coach in grade school? I thought so. It all started then. Okay. Thank you very much for being here.
That is funny. That is so funny.
Okay. We now
Between him and Sharsky happened to be winner, was it?
track coach at some point. Yeah, probably right. Yeah. I'll remind you when you're down there in the lobby, the voices really carry, so if you could just carry the noise outside. His mother?
Oh, Savina?
That's not on, is it?
I know Barb only from the high school with Dave. I don't know why. Yeah, I know her too. I don't know. I know her. I don't know why I know her.
Thank you all for coming. We now have a public hearing.
Yeah, interesting.
We have a public hearing this evening. It is dealing with aggregation operation and governance plans. I know many of the people out there watching tonight are glad to hear that we're taking this issue up. We will first hear from city staff in Palmer Energy, and then we will take comments from anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on this topic. I think we will open with Mr. Greason.
Your
Are you
Honor,
going
members
first?
of council, thank you. This public hearing is concerning the city's electric and gas aggregation operation and governance plans. The plans describe the policies and procedures by which the city will carry out its government aggregation programs. As you know, we've endeavored in recent months to work with other communities in the Miami Valley through the Miami Valley Communications Council on developing an aggregation program that is aimed at saving utility costs for our residents. This is part of that process, and I'm going to ask Kirk Mazirik and Bob Navely of Palmer Energy to overview that process. They've been hired by the MVCC to assist each of our communities, the member communities, in the aggregation program development. Bob?
Bob, just a second, I have to officially open the hearing with a gavel.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor, Council. My name's Bob Snavely. I'm with Palmer Energy. We're the energy consultant for the Ohio Municipal League and the MVCC, or the Miami Valley Communications Council. Matt never told me that I would have to follow that. That was an incredible display right before us here. But I'm here today to talk about electric and natural gas aggregation. And as Matt mentioned, this is one of the two hearings for the public to be able to ask questions and understand public hearing, or excuse me, aggregation. So I kind of figured I'd go through the steps a little bit here and then kind of open it up to questions if that's okay. Right now, the MVCC and Kettering, the city of Kettering, have already passed aggregation on the ballot. In fact, that was done many years ago. And so as far as the governance plan and seating of authority, those are all steps that we have to do and get certified by the PUCO. The MVCC has already done that. So we've sort of checked that off the list. You know, there's probably, I think we're looking at 12 to 14 different cities or villages that'll participate with the MVCC, and all of those different municipalities are in different steps in the process, and Kettering's pretty much at the head of the pack here, which is great. So once we do the second public hearing, which will be 2 weeks from today, from that point we're sort of in a waiting process for the rest of those communities to sort of catch up. And we're helping them with that process. And from a timing standpoint, we're looking at, you know, the end of summer before we can fully get things moving. So when everybody kind of catches up to where you are currently, the next step will be an RFP process. And RFP is request for a proposal. We'll send out the MVCC as a group and get bids from multiple suppliers for both electric and natural gas. Natural gas supply, electric generation. After that, we'll put together a recommendation at Palmer and make a recommendation to the MVCC board on you know, term, price, and supplier. After that, we'll bring those results to the group. We'll review that, answer any questions, and then set up a refresh date. On that refresh date, the MVCC will move forward, assuming, you know, the responses are to their liking and approved. We'll sign a contract with the supplier, and then the following steps are to inform the public of the price and term and supplier. And so how we do that is through an opt-out. So an opt-out is sent from the supplier who wins the bid, and it'll have the price, it'll have the term, meaning months of the contract, and obviously that supplier name. You will get one of those opt-outs mailed directly to you if you're currently with the utility. If you're not, or you're in a third-party agreement, you won't receive an opt-out, but we're working with MVCC and the rest of the communities to get out a campaign so that, the folks are aware that aggregation is an option and aware of price, supplier, and all that important information. When the opt-out letter is sent out, there's 21 days that the individual household or small business has to reply to that opt-out. If you don't do anything, you'll be included. If you decide to opt out, which is done by filling out a small portion on the bottom of that letter and send it in, you'll stay with the utility. From that point, the supplier will eliminate those customers from the list. They'll send the list over to the utility, and then the utility will send what's referred to as a rescission notice. The rescission notice is more or less it's a second opt-out that's sent by the utility saying, if you don't do anything, you'll be with this supplier, and the rescission notice has 7 days to reply. If you don't reply in 7 days, you'll be included in the program. That whole process from beginning to end takes about 4 to 5 months. Now we're already into this process, so we're not looking at that time frame. So as I mentioned, we're hopeful for a start early fall, end of the summer. A couple of questions that I receive frequently, I figured I would mention and answer. Maybe beat some people to the punch here, I guess. If you're in a third-party agreement, I guess I kind of mentioned this earlier, your service won't be interrupted, your contract won't be interrupted, but you're able to participate. And how we'll do that is the supplier will have an 800 number that you can call, or in some cases, depending on the supplier, you can do it online. So there'll be more information with that regard, when we have results from the RFP. There's no fee to leave at any time. That's going to be important to know. So if you get into the aggregation program and you want to leave at any time, that's not a problem. There's no fee at any time to leave both electric or natural gas. And then the last question I get is, what kind of change will there be to me paying my utility bill? And the answer is, for aggregation, for electric, the per kilowatt hour price will be on there. For gas, the per CCF price will be on the bill. It'll have the supplier's name on the bill, but you'll still directly pay the utility. So there's no change. You're not getting a second bill, nothing like that. So as far as the process goes in paying your electric or gas bill, it'll be the same process. Those are the three most frequent questions I get. So with that, I can open it up. I can answer any of your questions, or anybody in the audience if they have any.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
If we have residents, we do have residents who live in Greene County and not Montgomery County. Are our Greene County residents eligible?
That's a great question. So it's the folks that are in the incorporated area of Kettering. So if there's an incorporated area of Kettering that goes into Greene County, then absolutely.
Just to make sure, we've talked about this earlier.
Sure.
There's no change in the service.
Correct.
From gas or not?
That's exactly correct, sir. No. If the lights go out, you still call the same folks. The utility serves the exact same way. There's no change at all.
And then the other thing is, I'll be looking for my bill at the end of the summer or early fall to show a difference, right? And the residents will, hopefully, that's our targeted time.
Absolutely. We're working hard to get everybody on the same page, and that's our time frame. Absolutely, yes, sir.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. And I will.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
See you in a couple weeks.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
At this point, if there's any member of the public who would like to address us on this issue, please come down now. You may take 5 minutes. Seeing no one? Okay, I will close the. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, the public hearing is now closed. Now move to ordinances in second reading. Okay, public comment on other legislation. Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak before council with comments or new information about any legislation on tonight's agenda may do so at this time. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. Speaker must state their name and address. Comments should be addressed to council. If you have comments that are not about the legislation on tonight's agenda, there will be an opportunity for those to be heard later in the meeting. Anyone got any comments? Okay, hearing none. We'll now move on to ordinances in second reading, and we have none. We'll now move to resolutions, and I will ask Mrs. Fisher to introduce the first.
Your Honor, I do have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes to contract for the printing of Contact with Kettering. The amount budgeted is $46,000, and the estimated cost is $45,669.85. It is requested by the city manager's office, and I move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Okay, we'll call on Matt Greason to make a staff presentation.
Yeah, Your Honor, this resolution authorizes us to use the competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes process for printing of Contact with Kettering. We print 5 issues, 4 quarterly issues, and 1 resident guide. And collectively, and we don't print those in-house, and so collectively, those exceed the $25,000, and as a result, require legislation that's before you this evening.
Okay. Any comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, call the roll.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Your Honor, I have a resolution to declare the necessity and intention of acquiring property interest in project parcels 45 WD and 45T on the East David Road Improvements Project, City Project Number 02116R, ODOT Project MOT-E, David Road Improvements, PID Number 110254. The estimated cost is $505. That amount is available. It's requested by the engineering department. I move for approval.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution is in regard to the right-of-way acquisition for a 2024 federally funded improvement project along East David Road between Ackerman Boulevard and Far Hills Avenue. This particular parcel is located at the intersection of Ackerman and David. The right-of-way is needed for the installation of a new traffic signal pole and revised curb ramps at this location. Communications with the owner have been unsuccessful to date, so therefore we would like to initiate appropriation proceedings. This resolution tonight is the first step in that process. So we will continue to negotiate with them. If they continue to be uncooperative, we will request appropriation at a future date. Be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions? Okay, seeing none, call the roll.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into one or more agreements for a public art project in conjunction with the Rosewood Arts Center renovation. The estimated cost is $55,000. The amount budgeted is $35,000, and this is being requested by Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution is in conjunction with a new public art project that the Art and Public Places Committee would like to move forward in regard to the renovations of the Rosewood Arts Center. The proposed public art project would be near the entrance to the Rosewood Center, and it would also incorporate landscaping with the design. As mentioned, the estimated cost of the project is $55,000. There is a supplemental appropriation later in the agenda that would make up the difference between what is budgeted and what is estimated for the program to cost. Be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions? Okay, seeing none, call the roll.
Mrs. Hall? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Kleipas?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to negotiate and enter into contracts for entertainment for the Fraze Pavilion 2023 performance season. Estimated cost is $2.8 million. That is the amount budgeted and is requested by Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts. I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Greason.
Yeah, Your Honor, this is one of several routine items as we begin the Fraze Pavilion 2023 performance season. As Mr. Scott outlined, we're negotiating and entering into contracts for entertainment at the Fraze, and the total fees budgeted are $2.8 million. Be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none, call the roll.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Kleipas?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing payment of music licensing fees for concerts at Fraze Pavilion during 2023. The estimated cost is $80,000, which is the amount budgeted. This is being requested by Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Greason.
Yes, again, this is a beginning of the 2023 performance season required item. When you run a Fraze Pavilion type venue, it's necessary to pay music licensing fees, in this case to the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers, and Broadcast Music Incorporated. These fees are 1% of gross ticket sales in excess of $25,000 per event. Glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none, call the roll.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Kleipas?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into agreements for discounts, complimentary tickets, and complimentary program participation to benefit the advertising and promotion of calendar year 2023 Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts programs and the 2023 Fraze Pavilion performance season. It is requested by Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department, and I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Greason.
Your Honor, again, once again, Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts is requesting this additional 2023 Fraze Pavilion and PRCA program. We have to promote the events that occur at our venues, and this provides us the administrative flexibility to do so without having to come back individually for each individual effort or event that we are marketing or providing complimentary tickets, program participation, or discounts as part of trying to generate activity at these venues.
Okay, great. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, call the roll.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Kleipas?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes to contract for maintenance and repair of water slides at the Adventure Reef Water Park. The estimated cost is $35,000. That is the amount budgeted. It's requested by the Public Service Department to move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Greason.
Yes, Your Honor, the 2023 Capital Improvement Program budget includes $35,000 to perform repairs on and to refresh the Tropical Twister slides, which I'm sure everyone has gone down, right? Which includes fiberglass repairs, refinishing, and new gel coating. Be glad to answer any questions you have.
Okay, any questions? Okay, seeing none, call the roll.
Mr. Kleipas?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to contract with Time Clock Plus LLC for the purchase of a digital time clock for Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts. This is, the cost is $58,000, and that is also the amount budgeted, requested by Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Greason?
Your Honor, we are endeavoring to improve the time card and payroll process with this resolution for Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts by implementing a digital time card solution from Time Clock Plus. This includes integration with the Finance and Human Resource System using a cloud-based time clock, and it will also include hardware, training, and ongoing customer support. This request is also for a sole source agreement.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, call the roll.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Kleipas?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing participation in a project with the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission for installation and maintenance of electric vehicle charging stations, City Project Number 01401. This is requested by the Engineering Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Bergstresser?
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution will allow the city to contract with the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission for the installation and maintenance of two electric vehicle charging stations, one located here within the Government Center parking lot on Schroyer Road, and another located within the Governor's Place development along West Dorothy Lane along Governor's Place Boulevard. MVRPC recently awarded funds to Kettering to be included in a regional project to install these charging stations at 26 different locations within the greater Dayton region. MVRPC will contract with a vendor to install and maintain the chargers at the various locations. The charging stations will be maintained by the vendor for a period of 5 years, at which point the city can take over ownership and maintenance of the charging stations if we desire. Funding for this project for construction is scheduled for next year in 2024, and most importantly will be provided at 100% of the cost of the project with federal carbon reduction program funds that MVRPC received from the recent bipartisan infrastructure law. So there will be no local match required from Kettering or the other awarded jurisdictions. Would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, anyone have any questions? Seeing none, call the roll.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Kleipas?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Kettering, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023. Estimated cost is $20,000. This is being requested by the Finance Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Bergstresser?
Thank you, Your Honor. We're requesting a supplemental appropriation this evening of $20,000 from the city site's 1% for the Arts Fund. This is in relation to the previous resolution that discussed the public art project at the Rosewood Arts Center. We budgeted $35,000 in the 2023 budget. When the final project scope was put together, the estimated cost is now $55,000. Which we are requesting, therefore requesting the $20,000 difference from the 1% for the Arts Fund to make up the difference between the estimate and the budget. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none, call the roll.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Kleipas?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes. Okay, that concludes our resolutions. We have no ordinances in first reading tonight. Certifications and petitions, Ms. Kozinski.
Your Honor, we have one certification this evening. Planning Commission is recommending approval of PC 22-024 zoning map amendment. A public hearing regarding this request will be held on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at the Kettering City Council meeting.
Thank you. We will now have our manager's report with community update. Mr. Greason.
Your Honor, bear with me here for a second. You just go ahead to the first slide. We have an outstanding volunteer recognition program. Nominations for the 40th year of the Mayor's Award are being accepted until March 10th. President's Day, Kettering City offices will be closed, and I want to make sure you're aware of it, on February 20th to observe President's Holiday. However, there will be no delay in Rumpke trash services. Trash will be picked up as regularly scheduled. Summer Camps 2023. We have numerous opportunities for growth and discovery and through our Parks and Recreation and Cultural Arts program. And so 2023 Summer Camp registration begins on Monday, March 6th for Kettering residents and March 13th for non-residents. And please, none of us forget that your 2022 City of Kettering income tax return is due on April 18th, 2023. And city staff is available, and I think this is very important, available to assist residents with their preparation. They just need to contact the tax division office by contacting the number that is before you.
That it?
And I believe that's it.
Okay.
Thank you,
great.
Your Honor.
And they're awesome at it, by the way.
The tax returns?
Yes, they're very quick at getting them done.
Good to know. Okay, we will now ask if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to address any topic this evening. No? Okay. If there is anyone in there, they may speak for 5 minutes, and please address council. Hearing none, we will move on now to city council reports.
Your Honor,
Mrs. Fisher.
the one thing I'd like to uplift is I met with a gentleman by the name of Yogi Singha. What a wonderful man he is, helping us to relocate the Oak Creek pantry. And I just want to publicly state that he is doing what he can do to be a great community partner to make sure our residents in the Oak Creek area continue to have a food pantry within their reach.
Great.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
All I have tonight is a reminder to shop Kettering. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Keep it short.
Nice and short. This is all.
Keep it short as well. I just want to say happy Valentine's to everybody, especially my Valentine, my husband, Ryan Smith. Yep. Also, sorry.
Brownie points.
I also want to give a shout out to Joe Tooney of Kettering, who is in his 3rd Super Bowl for this weekend with the winning Kansas City Chiefs. He went to Alter High School here in Kettering. It's another community gem we have. And just ask for continued prayers for Bruce Duke for full recovery.
Thank
That's
you.
it for me.
In the interest of brevity, no comments other than happy Valentine's Day to my beloved wife and my better half, Letty.
Copying.
Finish up.
I have no update tonight, thank you.
Okay, thanks, everyone. I would just like to add to the comment that was made by Mr. Greason about the volunteer awards. Kettering really is so lucky to have so many fabulous volunteers, and we like once a year to recognize those who stand out, both in the adult category and in the youth category. So I'd like just reemphasize, March 10th is the deadline for applications, or nominations rather, and we hope that we will receive many of them because there's such a big pool to pull from. With that, I have no further comments tonight. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 28th, and we are going to enter into an executive session right now under Section 121.06K. Okay. Is there a motion to enter into executive session under Section 121.06 6K of the codified ordinance for purposes of property matters and economic development.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, call the roll.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass? Mrs. Hall? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes. Okay. We will now adjourn the meeting until the 28th, because we're going into executive session, so we will not adjourn at this point.